Now we come to the present verse. It refers to the time when Musa alayhi salam was going back to Egypt from Madian along with his wife. When on the way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called him near Mount Tur and told him to go to Pharaoh and his people. And this had a dual mission. Firstly, to invite Pharaoh to Allah's obedience, and secondly, to liberate the Bani Israel, which those people had enslaved for several centuries. Verse 11, the people of Pharaoh, have they no fear? Now Allah explains that you are being sent to Pharaoh and his nation because they have become fearless, because they have become rebellious, and were now crossing limits in their transgression. Verse 12, Musa submitted, saying, my Rabb, I fear that they will reject me. Now this fear is a very natural fear, something very human, and it is not something contrary to the station of prophethood. For example, bring to your mind any such person who is rebellious, who is rude, harsh, with a tyrant sort of a nature, and someone asks you to go and explain something to him which he does not believe in. What would your first reaction be? That no, I won't be able to explain it to him. He will never listen to me. So this is the same humanly reaction from Musa alayhi salam. Verse 13, my breast feels cramped and my tongue is not eloquent. Send Harun. Now Musa alayhi salam says that I feel a sort of a constriction in my chest. When do you feel like this? When you are extremely worried and anxious about something. Why does he feel like that? It has got several reasons. One reason is that he is from the slave nation, and for such a person to stand up against the king of the ruling nation is something extremely difficult. Then he is very well aware of the harsh and obstinate nature of Pharaoh. He knows that nothing can convince Pharaoh. And moreover, he had a problem with his speech. He used to stammer quite a lot. That is why he asks Allah to send his brother Harun to assist him, who was more vigorous in speech. Verse 14, they had a charge of manslaughter against me, and I fear they may put me to death. Now he gives another reason also, that he has committed an accident. Remember the accidental murder of an Egyptian when he got to know that the news has reached Pharaoh and they were planning to take revenge, and he fled from the country. Now, if he goes back, it was quite possible that they put him to death as a punishment. Verse 15, Allah said, indeed not. Proceed both of you with our signs. Surely we are with you listening. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not accept any of these things as an excuse and gives confidence to Musa alayhi salam that you have nothing to fear. I am with you. I am listening to you. Meaning that whether anyone listens to you or not, I am. And I am appreciating you for every word that you utter for my sake. And this feeling is a great boost of morale for a da'i, that whether anyone likes or dislikes, appreciates or condemns, Allah is watching and listening to me. Verse 16, go to Pharaoh and tell him, we are the Rasuls from the Rabb of the worlds. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is instructing them, Musa and Harun alayhi salam, that make it very clear that we have not come for any personal gains. Because usually people go to people of high position for a gain or to derive some benefit from them. Verse 17, you should send us, the children of Israel. Verse 18, when they went to Pharaoh and conveyed the message of Allah, he said, did we not cherish you when you were a child, Did you not stay several years of your life among us? Verse 19, then you did what you did. You are so ungrateful. Now, Pharaoh is being emotionally blackmailed. Pharaoh is emotionally blackmailing Musa alayhi salam. And at the same time, he's trying to belittle him by reminding him that you forgot your origin. You were helpless and brought up in my house, like all arrogant people today even say very often to those whom they think are lower than them, like they say कि अपनी औकात ना भूलो. Then Pharaoh also mentions that you committed a murder also, meaning that you forgotten? You have forgotten your own sin and now you have come preaching to us? Now this tactic is also used to embarrass the opponent and to make him look small before the audience. And this practice carries on up till this day, that you step into the field of dawah and people start pinpointing the sins of your past. Oh, you are the one who used to dance in the parties. You are the one who wore sleeveless dresses. And now you come up telling us to cover. Or if they cannot find anything against you, then they will start pinpointing those people of your family who do not have the correct approach towards Islam. That how come you come preaching to us when your own father is like that? Or you are telling us to pray. First go and tell your brother and sister to pray, or your own children to pray. Now this tactic says that instead of attacking the message, which is against your own desires, attack the person who is conveying it and stop it there and then. Verse 20, Musa replied, I did when I was a misguided youth. Now this simple reply of Musa alayhi salam is an example worth following for the dais and for dais of all times to come. That simple confession that yes, I did. I did all that because my Rabb had not guided me at that time. But now that He has guided me, I don't do it anymore. Today, what people do at such times is that they try to confuse the issue by changing the topic. But Musa alayhi salam, being the messenger of Allah, had nothing to hide. And so while replying, he accepted his weakness, did not care at all what people in the opposition would think on the acceptance of his mistake. So one should never try to camouflage one's weakness and accept it gracefully. And Musa alayhi salam doesn't get distracted from his purpose by these personal insults that are hurled at him. Verse 21, I fled from you all because I feared you, but now my Rabb has granted me wisdom and appointed me as one of his Rasuls. Now Musa alayhi salam says, yes, I did fear you. That's why I ran away, but now I no longer fear you. Why? Because now my Rabb has given me insight. He has given me wisdom. Now I am chosen by my Rabb. And this is one of the effects of gaining the true insight into Deen, that you stop fearing people. Verse 22, is it a favor with which you taunt me that you have enslaved the children of Israel? Now Musa alayhi salam answers his other taunt, that he brought him up in his house. He said that if you had not been unjust and cruel to Bani Israel, I should have not been brought to your house for upbringing. It was only on account of your barbarianism that my mother put me in a basket and cast it into the river. Had it not been so, I should have been happily brought up in my own house. Therefore, do not boast of your favor of bringing me up in your home. Verse 23, Pharaoh said, Who is the Rabb of the world? Now we find that the details of how Musa alayhi salam introduced himself as the messenger of the Lord of the universe has been omitted, and only the conversation that took place after it is related. Pharaoh says, "Who is Rabbul Alameen?" Now we find that questions are asked due to three reasons. Number one, you really want to know something you don't know about. And number two, you know the answer, but you just want to check the level of the other person's intelligence. And in your arrogance, you want to prove that you know more. Like, there are people, when they know that you are studying the Quran, they ask you, have you studied that Tafsir or heard of such scholar? And if you say you haven't, because obviously you can't read every Tafsir and listen to every scholar, then they try to prove that if you haven't, then you know nothing. The third reason is that you want to insult a person by means of that question. What we call a mocking question. Now, the purpose of the second kind of question is to prove your own intellectual supremacy. And the purpose of this third kind is to insult or belittle a person. The question of Pharaoh belonged to this third category. Verse 24, Musa alayhi salam replied, "He is the Rabb of the heavens and the earth, and all that lies between them, if you really care to believe." Now we see that Musa alayhi salam is not irritated by Pharaoh's question. He remains calm and cool and gives a very composed answer. Verse 25, Pharaoh said to those around him, Do you hear that? Now this statement of Pharaoh clearly shows that he wants to provoke his courtiers to react against Musa alayhi salam. Verse 26, Musa continued, "He is your Rabb and the Rabb of your forefathers." Verse 27, Pharaoh interjected, "This Rasul of yours who has been sent to you is crazy." Verse 28, Musa continued, "He is the Rabb of the east and west, and all that lies between them, if you would only care and try to understand." Now look at Musa alayhi salam. Pharaoh is insulting him publicly, calling him a madman, but we see no reaction on his part, and he continues to glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Musa alayhi salam, without faltering, behaved like this because he minused his own self. His concern, his focus is conveying the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His priority, his mission, this is his mission, and not propagating or glorifying his own self. He is not bothered whether anyone calls him a madman or something else, as long as his Rabb is with him. And this is what a da'i should do if he's sincere with the mission. Just don't care about what people have to say about you, or stop your work because you cannot take the criticism anymore. Verse 29, at this Pharaoh, who did not want to listen anymore, said, "If you serve any other god beside me, I shall have you thrown into prison." So now when he finds that his tactics of trick questioning and insulting haven't worked, he comes to giving physical threats. Verse 30, at this Musa alayhi salam said, "What if I show you a convincing sign?" Now Musa alayhi salam is still not bugged or budged even after the physical threats. Musa alayhi salam first tried to convince him through argument, but when he finds that logic does not work on this man, he decides to show him the miracles. Verse 31, Pharaoh said, "Go ahead, show it if you are of the truthful." I think we should end here. وآخر الدعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.